Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Andrew Mansour. We have seen an unprecedented growth in distributed generation and technology change in Australia in utilities. And today we are lucky enough to be joined by a number of industry leaders who are here to talk to us about what they see as the future in this sector. Pat, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome, Andrew.
Pat, we've seen an unprecedented growth in distributed generation and new technologies, and the question I really want to pose to you is, if you could look forward 5 or 10 years, what do you see as the future in this area?
Look, great question, Andrew, and you're right, there has been unprecedented change, and I think the rate of that change is really starting to snowball, and it's certainly a very exciting time to be participating in the energy industry. In the context of property development, so whether that's residential community developments, or whether it's dense urban developments or mixed-use development, certainly energy has come to the fore in terms of what developers are thinking. And so what I'd expect we're going to see is that developers of tomorrow are going to be able to follow the precedents that have been set by the developers of today, who are of course the current industry leaders. And that's going to see a significant increase in thermal precincts, and I think embedded energy networks, and certainly embedded generation as well. So I think that we're going to see a continuation of what are current early trends. However, I think on a technology basis, I think we're in for an equally unprecedented period of change. So there's a bunch of themes there that are probably worth mentioning. One is, of course, electric vehicles. So there are a few people who've driven a Tesla who haven't been impressed by it, and they're certainly a very efficient vehicle. That logically will dramatically change the way energy users interface with our networks and how they consume power. Another theme, of course, is not so much solar PV. Solar PV perhaps from the perspective of greater penetration of solar PV as it becomes socialised in our community, but more importantly, solar PV and its integration with other assets such as batteries, other appliances at home, and the network as well, as we integrate whatever it seems to be the term of the day, the Internet of Things. So that's certainly a very, very significant theme. And then lastly, I'd say one of the most significant changes we're likely to see is developers and property owners and investors looking at non-conventional renewables. And what I mean by that is not solar PV, but other renewable sources like geothermal power, and recovering heat from wastewater, so grey water or black water, and using that heat and value adding it so that it can be used for either air conditioning or potable hot water. And logically, whilst that type of equipment is neither novel or new overseas, it certainly is novel or new to this market. So as our local property developers grasp the nettle, if you will, they will be able to move forward and deploy those new technologies. And I think it's going to be a really exciting period in the next 5 to 10 years.
Pat, it sounds like an optimistic future for the industry, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you, Andrew.